I'm Christine McKellar. Welcome back. I'm here with Jeff Burbank, who's a fantastic journalist. We've been friends for a long time, and you moved on to much more fun things in Vegas for a while there. But even I didn't know you'd done I want to call it the 3 points from being a journalist in San Francisco to Washington to LA, back to Vegas at the early sun, like you said, which was just a fun. It's still fun. I read it every morning. I like it. And then you worked at the RJ, and we had mutual friends there, Mike Paskovich, and I knew Tom Keevil, the former editor, very well when I lived in Newport Beach. So we go way back. But how would you compare? And I know that you've moved on. Jeff is also an author. He has several books out, and he is the coordinating for the Mob Museum, the
content development specialist.
Right, but you, as a journalist, have probably seen trends. So back from when you left the RJ, and I know you were writing your books, to now, how do you see, what do you think the trends are today? Has there been like a big difference or just a little difference in journalism of, say, in the 90s and journalism of the millennium?
Well, in some ways there have been tremendous changes, but in other ways there are a lot of similarities. When I left the RJ in early 95, this was just the beginning of the internet, and they started having their newspaper articles put digitally starting in 91. And before that, and then mostly, I mean, even after that, for some time, they had clip files, so when you had to do some research, you went in to a file room and you pulled out files and you had the clips that were the hard copies, right? Well, you don't need to do that anymore. Everything's with keyword search or a Google search, or inside the newspaper, they have their own search capability. So when I left the RJ, it was just when the internet was starting. When I went back into journalism, because for a while I worked on the Strip, I worked on the Paris project when the Paris Hotel was being planned. I worked at Bally's for about a year and a half. So, but when I became a journalist later, I noticed the huge difference with the internet. I mean, Google searches are indispensable. Being able to look at maps on Google, being able to look at satellite pictures. Double checking the spellings of names. That's what you use Google for. It used to be that you would use the phone book to double check the spellings of names. So I had a phone book beneath my chair, and I literally
the Bible
checked it. I don't know how many times. We had a huge book that was very expensive called a reverse directory that you could find where someone lived based on their phone number, or you could find their phone number based on their address. But of course, all of that's online too.
That would help probably just telescope journalism, because I know you would spend, and I as an author would have to live in a library or, like you said, in the morgue at the paper. Now it's just so instantaneous that I guess news is more compressed, or the news feed is more just...
Well, the thing is, there are paywalls. Like, there are some news stories that you just can't search. You've got to get a subscription. All right. So there are some companies that have a lot of newspaper archives that you can search, and you can search the picture of the different pages, and they'll show you an article from 1965 or something like that. But then you can't print it out, and in order to actually read it, you're going to have to pay them, have a subscription. But the thing is, you have that access. If I wanted to get an article from the Chicago Tribune, I'd either have to order it by mail, and who knows how long it would take. Now, if I do buy a subscription, I can go right on and get it immediately, and then write my story with it.
Amazing. You always see in those spy movies and stuff the microfiche. When somebody is researching, they go into the library and they spend hours and hours turning that thing. And boy, those days are gone. And social media has a big impact on journalism.
Yes.
Don't a lot of people think they're reporters sometimes on Facebook and Twitter?
When I came back as a journalist, I went back after my father died. I went back to San Jose area, and I got a job with a news service called Bay City News Service, which was based in San Francisco. And I was the San Jose bureau chief, and what we did with that was it was amazing. Though you would use the internet, and you would use Facebook, you would use Twitter, and you would use all of those things. For instance, if someone died and they had a Facebook page, you'd go to their Facebook page, and that would become part of the story, the comments people wrote.
Interesting.
You know, and so I hadn't, and people were saying, oh yeah, you got to do that. Okay, so find their Facebook page and write all you can, and then see if you can get some people from the Facebook page, and see if you can get comments from them. And so that's a whole new pioneering part of journalism, you know, that we didn't have before.
Human interest.
Before it was the phone and you going personally somewhere
with a little notepad and
right. And then I would use recorders sometimes, but now the recorder is indispensable. So I bring my iPhone and record news conferences, take pictures, take videos. I covered Barack Obama's landings at Moffett Field in Mountain View, and he came for a cybersecurity convention at Stanford. I covered that too. Wow. And so I got to stand out there with the news media, take a video of him coming off the off of Air Force One, take pictures, send those to the news service if they wanted to use them, and was able to record his speech, and sit down and use my earphones and write down what he was saying from my car.
That is so amazing. I mean, all from one little appliance, or what do you call it, a tablet, or you can do it on a tablet too.
Right.
Which is what's cool about this WCOBM. It's a TV show, but it's streaming on the internet. I mean, it's amazing. That could maybe also be a detriment, though, because before you'd have editors proof stuff before the copy went through, but now if you're reporting instantaneously,
well, no. What we would do is I do send it to an editor, and they edit it very quickly, and the pressure is to get it on the wire as soon as possible because you have so many other people competing with you, like from TV stations to blogs. So that's one of the things that hasn't changed. You still have news stories that are written pretty much like they were in the 70s, the 80s, like the wire service style.
Right. I was going to talk. Yes.
And you see that there. So some things haven't changed, and the basics of reporting, as far as accuracy and fairness, spelling people's name right, that kind of thing, that's still apparent now. But I mean, it is radically different. I mean, being able to have so much information at your fingertips.
It's almost scary.
I mean, Wikipedia. Wikipedia is great. Now, sometimes people say that you can't use it for accuracy purposes. So I use it to tip myself off and to give myself a basic understanding of something. And then I go and I confirm what they write in there, because anybody can write and edit that thing.
Correct, yeah.
But I still find it indispensable as a reporter to give me a background about something that I don't know much about, like a law that was passed in the 80s or something like that.
Yeah, that would be an invaluable tool. And I like to, and I do it when I write feature stories, I like to embed links within the story. So if I've interviewed somebody like Anthony Cools or something, I can hyperlink his name, and when you click on it, then you go to his website.
Well, see, that's another
those are
thing.
So cool.
That is another very useful thing about social media, about the internet.
Right.
You can refer somebody to your source of your information immediately.
Or even back to your site, or to an advertiser or something of that nature.
Right.
Well, from all of this and your 3 points, which I just love, you have authored several books, and your first one was License to Steal. Was that correct?
Right.
I remember when that came out, we all celebrated that one a couple of times. And I do want to talk about what inspired you. And again, I have to think back, because I'm kind of one of those people that, had you not moved to Vegas, I wonder what you would have been writing about. It wouldn't have been Los Gatos, the toll house, or something, maybe Old Town. But I know that you went on from License to Steal, love the title, to several others, and you have a book with some photographs of Vegas?
Yes.
Oh, that's got to be interesting.
I did two of them. One called Historic Photos of Las Vegas.
Right.
And then the one that came out May of last year.
Boy,
was Lost Las Vegas.
Yeah, I like that. We got it all going on. We'll be right back, because we got to talk about words and photos. See you in a minute.